I've always enjoyed photography, but I truly got into it only after taking photo classes with Miss Pixler here at Mercersburg. After our final project last year, I realized that I'm truly passionate about photography, and especially people and fashion photography. So when I came to commerce this year, I already knew what I wanted to do. Initially, I was planning to create just a series of photographs, ethereal portraits inspired by Russian photographer Kristina Makeyeva. So as a final piece, I would have had a portfolio whose theme is Nature's Four Elements. However, it wasn't enough for me. I wanted to create something bigger, something that requires a little more than just taking pictures. Since I wanted it to be more significant, I started thinking about the business component I could add to my project. So that's how I came up with the idea to collaborate with one jewelry producer back in Russia. She has a small brand called Tati R and produces very unique handmade jewelry pieces from beads and threads. She agreed to let me borrow several sets of jewelry for my photo shoots, so at the end I produced a magazine/catalog for their future use in marketing campaigns. We collaborated to choose several jewelry sets for each of my photography themes: water, air, earth, and flame. We set and planned each image carefully. Then I started preparation for the photo shoot itself. I needed to buy all the necessary materials and supplies to create the shots that I imagined in my head. So here the hardest part began. Since I was already back in Russia, the delivery of all the materials that I ordered was around 3 weeks or more, which would mean a significant delay in my project. But given the time frame of the course this year was not acceptable. As a result, I had to find everything I wanted in the local stores. Once that was done, I started planning the actual photo shoots. I was lucky enough to have my friend from my previous school in Russia who agreed to be my model for my project and spend many hours with me trying to get the best shots we can. The first theme was Earth. I needed a place that would look like a type of jungle, so the closest thing I found was the botanical garden of Moscow State University. Since it is a public space, I had to deal with people constantly walking by and staring at us, as well as with bad lighting of the greenhouse, but in the end, we received what we came for. Here are some of the shots that I got. After that, the most tedious but interesting process for me began: post-processing. Although it may not seem so, editing pictures implies a huge amount of time and work, especially in the case of fashion photography. Here, everything should be perfect: skin texture and skin tone, hair, clothes, accessories, and of course, composition, lighting, color scheme, and basically everything else. To get my final images, I could work for many hours on one single shot, retouching, altering highlights and shadows, certain colors, deleting unwanted elements, doing basically everything to produce the image that I envisioned to myself. Throughout this process, I realized that a good image is not just what you shoot, but rather what you create in the process before, at the moment, and after the shutter clicking itself. Throughout the whole process of working on my project, I faced several challenges that sometimes complicated the process a little bit, but I think it wouldn't be as interesting and satisfying at the end without them. Given the themes from my magazine Nature's Four Elements, I was choosing the places for the photo shoots respectively, which also include sometimes public spaces that imply foreign people in the process of shooting. Moreover, a problem with the waterproof case, well, it came with a huge hole in it, caused a delay in the underwater photo shoot, which changed my vision of this whole project. Since it was already early March, I had to leave Russia in order to come for the spring term to Mercersburg. So I faced a dilemma: should I stick to one model as I wanted initially for the consistency purposes of my magazine, but have basically an incomplete project, or get another model but complete all four themes of the photo shoots? As you can see here, I chose the second. Upon my arrival to the US, I completed my air photo shoot and had enough to start the most exciting part: magazine design itself. An important part for me was that I didn't want to get just a photo book. I wanted to create something as much similar to a fashion magazine as I could. Now, this was a problem. As you know, all the fashion magazines include articles, interviews, and other interesting content. Well, all I had were images. I started brainstorming about the content that I could fill the pages of the magazine with. So I came up with the idea of interviewing the jewelry producer to get some responses to the questions about her brand, creative process, inspiration, and materials she uses in the production. Additionally, I went through the process of selecting a number of poems that would work together with the images well, and writing the description and overall analysis of the jewelry collection presented in the magazine and the brand itself. Now, I was ready to get into the design itself. Editorial design and in particular magazines always fascinated me, but there are a lot of things you need to learn to be good in designing contemporary stylish magazine spreads. So I came up with two cover ideas, which included the name of the brand, the theme, and the month of magazine issue. I ended up choosing the first one, because I think it reflects better the overall theme of my project. The spread's design was one of the most captivating but at the same time complicated things I've ever done. The design of each spread included numerous hours of working on the layout, matching fonts, drawing the design elements, and the elaboration of the style of the magazine as a whole. So by the end of the course, I was basically done with my magazine, except one part that I was still missing, my water pictures. So by the end of April, I was finally able to complete my underwater photo shoot, the last piece of my project. This was probably the one photo shoot I was most excited about, but which required much more energy and skills than the others. It definitely made me go out of my comfort zone, trying to stay still underwater and focus the camera on the object while looking for the best angles and trying to hold my breath as long as possible. But the shots I got at the end were definitely worth it. So here we go. Though it was a long process of coming from an idea to the final piece, it was an incredible journey that definitely was worth all the time and effort spent on it. I made my dream come true by issuing my first magazine created from scratch completely by myself, both as an artist and an editor. I would like to thank all the people that helped me throughout the process, and especially Ms. Pixler for her support and guidance and her belief in me as an artist. So thank you so much for taking the time to watch my presentation, and I look forward to seeing all of you in the Q&A.